Monterey Peninsula, an appealing part of Central California, has an array of sights to see, including Cannery Row. This Pacific coastline, famously painted into American literature by John Steinbeck, is for us enhanced by the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna, Seca, and Ferrari Racing Days. The second round of the Ferrari Challenge North America embraced this undulating racing circuit, widely anticipated by the fans and the teams. The drivers will deliver when they take to the tarmac, and at the end of the weekend, those that are victorious will have earned their accolades. Forza Ferrari. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. This is race 1 for our 488 Challenge in round 2 here. 30 minutes plus 1 lap for the 488 Challenge Evo cars to do their best around this extraordinary track which forms round 2. Round 1 was in Texas at Circuit of the Americas. From here we go to support Formula 1 in Montreal, then it's Watkins Glen International. Sonoma Raceway comes next, then it's the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, before the Finale Mondiale in Tuscany, in Imola, in the middle of October. The sun's shining in California, and I'm pleased to say that is the case this afternoon. It wasn't this morning. This track is extraordinary. Quite a short track relatively, but it winds its way through the undulations here in California and is a real test for our drivers, including that iconic corkscrew sequence through 8 and 8A, which is precisely where we pick the cars up now. We did this in rehearsal, you know, and there we can see the cars making their way out onto track then, and the weather conditions now really rather nice. Track temperature 21 degrees, the air temperature is 16, 70% humidity and 15 kilometers per hour of wind. That's the way it looks then, and so the cars that were so part of Ferrari Challenge for so long, the 488 and the Challenge Evo cars, and so many of those cars, Tony, that even though we're racing the 296 in the Ferrari Challenge, we still get to see these wonderful 488 Challenge Evo cars out there on track.
Yeah, this car has a great history in Ferrari's racing department. We've seen some great talent coming up the ranks, winning the finale or winning the championships here in the US or worldwide, and is a great platform. When we didn't have the 296, we said that this is the best car for single make championship. Today we have a 296 Challenge as well that has outpaced this car, but it still provides great racing. We saw it in Coda as well at the opening round, and we see some drivers doing both, racing with the 488 Evo as well as the 296 Challenge car as well. So it shows as well that the drivers still want to drive also the 488, even though the comments and the feedback and everything we've seen so far shows that the 296 is another step.
You're absolutely right, and you mentioned drivers doing both campaigns. Jason McCarthy is one of those. He'll be going from P2. He won in the 296 earlier on today. Always a winner in our eyes is another part of our presentation team, and she's a delight to work with, Shay Adam.
Double spoiler alert there, Dave. Spoiling Jason McCarthy's big results a little bit earlier on. How cool was it for him to talk about the difference in driving the cars as well? Because braking where you should in the 488 and then trying to adapt to the 296, dealing with traction control, learning how to drive with it off in general, that was a big key for him. So Jason, starting second, as you mentioned, he's going to have his hands full, though, from our pole sitter, not yet here on the grid. Car number 26, it's Massimo Perina. Massimo having the perfect season so far. 2 races, 2 wins, 2 fastest laps, and 2 pole positions. Well, today he continued that streak with yet another pole position. So we'll have to see if the youngster can keep that alive. His uncle, Roberto, already racing earlier against Jason McCarthy, able to give him a little bit of useful advice from the Ferrari of Seattle team. But a couple rows back, there's somebody else to keep an eye on. Mark Musso in the number 13. He raced here back in 2020. He's got experience of this track, whereas perhaps some of the other drivers don't fully know it yet. Massimo learning it quickly. The next row back, I want to highlight 2 more guys. The second row of the grid, we've got Brad Favre. He raced in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category in the new 296 at Circuit of the Americas. He's back in the 488 car and a great qualifying. Put him P4 with Logan Broughton for company, P3 in the 76. Logan, a newbie to this championship. It's going to be pretty exciting. But guys, we are now within a minute of the driver start your engine command. So Dave, I'll give it back to you for about the next 45 seconds or so.
Now, that's given me a real task in terms of timing. 45 seconds. I'll do my best, Shay. Let me just right a wrong. And that is, of course, that Imola is not in Tuscany. It's in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Thank you, Mr. Miladisic. So the cars all lined up there, ready to go. And here in Laguna, Seca, the second round of our Ferrari Challenge here in North America, about to take to the track for these 488 Challenge cars. And yes, it's a fascinating grid lineup, our mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers. And let's go back down to Shay Adam now. I think it was 46.34 seconds. Sorry, Shay.
All good, Dave. Math is not our strong suit. So now it's time. Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
Such style, such authority. As we see the car of Massimo Perina, then Ferrari of Seattle driver. He's going from P1. Pole position, then final adjustments being made to those tyre pressures. And Tony Verlander, top racing driver and Ferrari ambassador alongside me in our broadcast. It's the details, the minutiae, if you like, of just the final adjustments to tyre pressures can make all the difference in a race.
Yeah, it is true, and also sometimes it's some psychological stuff as well. You know, the last 0.001 is always done on the grid, but the basic idea of the tire pressures is decided earlier. It's good that after the formation lap or lap to the grid, the tire pressures are checked. The temperature has changed. It's not been an easy day. This morning was really difficult conditions, cold track temperature around 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit, and this afternoon the conditions are completely different. Now I would even call them optimum for car race, and is a great moment of the day for these 488 Challenge Evo drivers.
Thank you, Tony Verlander, who considers the track that we've got right now is optimum. That means for you and I, let's hold on because we're about to go racing. As the cars are on their formation lap then behind the Richard Mills safety car, I remind you it's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. We will bring you the grid in full. Massimo Perina then goes from pole position. Jason McCarthy, already a race winner today, goes from P2 on the grid. Logan Broughton and Brad Falver, 2 drivers to watch out for, going from the second row. They are P3 and P4. To the next row, where we find Michael Porter and Frank Szczesniak. They are P5 and P6. Still with our Pirelli drivers then, it's Mark Musso and Eric Pan then going from P7 and P8. We move into row 5 with Omar Balkasoon and Joe Sposado. They are P9 and P10, and then Bruce Cleveland from P11. Joel Rosenbacher is the best of the Shell drivers. He goes from P12, ahead of Gregory Hopkins and Matthew Dalton. They complete 7 rows of our 488 Challenge grid. Gerda Sven Slovas goes from P15 with Richard Pineda, P16. To row 9, Henry Hummel making his debut this year in the Ferrari Challenge, and the very experienced Lance Corley. Good to see you back, Lance. He goes from P18. Stephen Chen and Steve Blevett, then they are P19 and P20. Then it's Brad Evans and Dan Magnuszewski. They go from P21 and P22, respectively. It's Louis Peruscia and Bernard Gomez then are on the 12th row of the grid. It's P23 and P24. Louis racing in Europe just a couple of weeks ago. Enoch Hurd and Jeffrey Keel then are on the 13th row. with Ben Godenzi with some overtaking to do from P27 on our 27-strong grid of 488 Challenge Evos then. The Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the Shell drivers with the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen. So the undulating circuit here in Laguna Seca. And we split the screen so that you can see the cars round the final turn and also as they head towards the flag. Which when that goes green, we will be racing. Massimo Perina then in the gun seat because he goes from P1. Jason McCarthy will try and unseat that going in to the second turn, which is going to be a good overtake opportunity as we get the greens. Let's go racing. Ferrari challenge then here at Laguna Seca, and textbook start from Massimo Perina, denying Jason McCarthy the opportunity initially, as Jason now will dive into that gap, and Brad Falvo trying to take advantage as well right at the start of this race. And Massimo Perina then, as all the cars make their way through the first sequence of turns, very, very good to see. The huge paddock area here at Laguna Seca then unfolds before us on screen as the cars continue around this lap and begin this snake uphill now. And we pick them up as Massimo Perina leads from Jason McCarthy then running in P2. Then it's Logan Broughton and Brad Falva, Michael Porter, Frank Szczesniak, Mark Musso, Eric Pan, Omar Balkasoon, Joe Sposado and Bruce Cleveland. That's the way it looks. So up the hill, and then, of course, after the crest, it is all eyes on the corkscrew through 8 and 8A. So it is like a cliff drop, and there you can see the car of Frank Szczesniak, driver with the car number 1 for Ferrari of Austin, and just heading into the next turn then. Very unfamiliar livery for Frank Szczesniak for this year, and the first lap is put in the book then with Massimo Perina leading from Jason McCarthy, and then it's Logan Broughton and Brad Falva, then it's Porter, Szczesniak and Eric Pan having got past Mark Musso, and then it's Omar Balkasoon. A great job being done by Gregory Hopkins in the Shell class. It's P1 for the foreign cars Italia driver ahead of Matthew Dalton, and then Guido Slovas, who's running P3 at the moment. And Massimo Perina then, young whippersnapper that he is, Tony, is beginning to eke out something of a gap from Jason McCarthy, who looks just a little bit unsettled there as he picked up a bit of dust.
Yes, overall very clean start and opening lap by all the drivers. Didn't see any major drama. McCarthy again really late braking into turn 2 at the start, but Massimo Perina controlled really well, and now we can see that his pace is really strong, and actually it's McCarthy that is coming under pressure.
Logan Broughton then, just showing his face to the inside of the car of Jason McCarthy then. Jason sticking his elbows out metaphorically and making it very difficult for Logan Broughton to find a way through then in the number 76 car. Good racing. Logan, of course, taking a P4 and a P5 in the opening races at the Circuit of the Americas a few weeks ago. And, of course, Jason McCarthy gives himself a lot of work to do over the course of a weekend, jumping out of the 296 into the 488 Challenge Evo. The car's very different to drive, but Jason with a high work ethic and really enjoying driving and racing these Ferraris as Logan takes another look going into turn number 2. But once again, Jason McCarthy is able to defend that position. We can see from this fantastic shot, really, really high overhead, we can see that actually playing out on screen in front of us. Meantime, lots of battles going on elsewhere in this, and this is proof that you're almost lulled into a false sense of security of making that turn work for you in terms of an overtake, but actually, if you're in the middle of the track, you carry more momentum, Tony.
Yeah, that turn 2 is a double apex corner, meaning that you can dive in, brake deep into the first part, you leave the apex a little bit, and then you come back to have a good exit towards turn 3. I'm just amazed about the opening laps of Massimo Perina. He's into high 125s, and the other drivers cannot go below 127. So he's really showing the pace at the beginning of this race.
Indeed he is, and there you can see the 113 car of Gregory Hopkins then for Foreign Cars Italia. Also very, very quick, and certainly quicker than the rest of the the drivers in the shell category at the moment. It's Matthew Dalton, P2, and Gidas Venslovas, who's running in P3 at the moment. They're ahead of Joel Rosenbacher. Then it's Perina and Corley, who occupy the P4, 5 and 6 positions in shell at the moment. So mixed category of racing then, with our Pirelli drivers and also our shell drivers taking to this very, very challenging Laguna Seca track, which winds its way through the countryside here. So Perina then, remarkably, 4 seconds to the good already as we look at the number 66 car of Brad Falva. And Brad Falva currently running P4 with Michael Porter right behind, and Michael Porter trying to just keep the pressure on Brad Falva at the moment to try and encourage and provoke a small error somewhere. Strikes me that you kind of need almost a little bit of assistance with regards to overtaking. I mean, it is possible to overtake here at Laguna Seca, but it's made a little bit easier if you can run a driver just a bit wide, or encourage him to run a bit wide, Tony.
Yeah, it almost you almost need a mistake from the other driver to have an exit of the corner that is not at normal speed to be able to go side by side. If a driver is really protecting his position and driving hard, it's very difficult to overtake, at least without the contact. Sometimes a car without the mirror can maybe overtake, but you know, it's very, very tough to overtake here in Laguna Seca.
So Michael Porter then continues to put the pressure on Brad Falva then, as we get a live gap for you on the left-hand side of the screen as the cars break the timing beam right now. The live gap between P4 and P5 is just 0.3, hardly anything. And Michael Porter was just 2/100ths slower on that lap, and that's how close he is getting. This is the battle that is going on for P4 in Trofeo Pirelli. Almost hanging it around the outside there, and really piling the pressure on as Guido Venslovas has got past Matthew Dalton for P2 in the shells. I can see from my timing screen, and also from the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen. So don't envy our director in terms of deciding which pictures to show, because there is so much going on, and this battle is certainly worth pursuing and watching. So it is the battle now between Brad Falva and Michael Porter. So here, critical to be millimetrically perfect. I've learned this from Tony Villander. The moment you just go 1 centimetre wrong, and there you can see dropping down the order is Joe Sposado, and the various shell drivers getting past the Sposado Ferrari Beverly Hills Pirelli driver at the moment, and climbing up the hill once again. Massimo Perina, I'm in awe of this, Tony. Nearly 6 seconds up the road now in the lead of this race.
Yeah, he certainly has a pace. He's on his own completely, based on lap times, just based on the performance he's having, and the gap is already 7 seconds, which is, I'm really amazed about this difference. It's one of the notes that I put for the start is for McCarthy is actually start first lap to be able to challenge Perina, but there was not a real moment overtaking attempt. It's just Perina controlled the start, and now when we're down to pace, it's just completely, I'm amazed. He's very strong. He's 1.4 seconds quicker than anybody else on the last lap.
I would suggest that Joe Sposado has got some issue, because he's dropping down the order, and there are the top 3 shell drivers have got by him already. I mean, he's still got pace, but he's not on the pace, if that is a misnomer, because he's still getting around pretty quickly, but not as quick as obviously his peers in the Pirelli class, let alone some of the fastest drivers in the shell class as well. There is Mark Musso. Now, Mark is currently running P7. He's chasing down Frank Szczesniak ahead. Frank Szczesniak running in P6 at the moment. And both Frank Szczesniak and Mark Musso are no strangers to success, it must be said. And, well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Frank Szczesniak didn't manage to strike a podium at COTA, but he took a P5 and a P6. And Mark Musso, he certainly was on the podium in the first round, the number 13 car, sealing a P3 in the first race. So Mark Musso then chasing hard Frank Szczesniak at the moment. So this into this double apex turn that Tony was talking about here, with Mark Musso with the familiar colours that we've been so used to for seasons of Ferrari Challenge racing, in that blue and yellow car at the back of this pack. Meantime, Michael Porter and Brad Falva continue to battle royale over this P4 place. And for the moment, I have to say I'm really impressed with the defence from Brad Falver, although he's not had to defend too hard. Michael Porter, who missed the first round, but he's back here now, and we're delighted to see Michael Porter back out on the grid, is chasing Brad Falver for all he's worth, but seemingly is not going to be making a mistake. So Michael Porter is really trying to have to pick his moments, and Brad Falver doing a good job of denying Porter any opportunity to come through at the moment. So heavy braking into the corkscrew, this downhill, and it's not only the downhill, Tony, but it's the camber that plays a part here.
Yeah, it's to get the right line, really hard braking into corkscrew, but it's not over, because once you've done the entry to the corkscrew, it's a very quick, slow speed change of direction, and after that the sequence continues throughout turn 9, which becomes third, fourth gear corner, where you balance with the car. At one point there's a little bit of compression, though the car goes closer to the track. The balance, the grip changes. Suddenly from understeer, the front grips, and you need to be careful with the rear not to slide the car too much. So it's a continuous balancing with the right maneuvers with the steering wheel, throttle and brake.
Do you know what's absolutely amazing here, as Michael Porter once again lights up the wick and piles the pressure on Brad Falver, is that Massimo Perina with very nearly 9 seconds of advantage up the road, and quite a short lap here at Laguna Seca. It's not going to be many moments before he's into backmarking traffic, and he's going to have to wield his way through that traffic. Now, generally speaking, in the Ferrari Challenge, the driver discipline is exemplary, and I don't imagine that he will have any problem passing that traffic, but even so, it's remarkable that he is so far up the road that he will already be onto the back of the Shell drivers, potentially.
Yeah, sometimes on tracks like this, you are controlling the race, you're controlling the pace, making sure that you have tires towards the end of the race. But in these occasions, leading driver Massimo Perina has been on it since the first corner, and he's pulling away a huge gap already.
Look at this battle. It's really lit up now, because there was just a centimetre of opening for Michael Porter, and he tried to take advantage of that. Of course, coming into the mix now is Frank Szczesniak and Mark Musso. So all of a sudden, we've got a four-way fight for this P4 that's going on as they head into the turn now. They are so close together. If they were welded together, they couldn't be any closer, as Michael Porter dives to the inside line. And also trying to take advantage is Frank Szczesniak. And all of a sudden, where Brad Falver wanted to turn in, he couldn't, because the gap was full of the Frank Szczesniak car. So, as is often the case in motor racing, and here comes Mark Musso, if you make an error and you allow one car through, it's almost like a train potential for others to take advantage. And now that we can see that Michael Porter has got by, he is, he's being able to gap already. So, yes, that was just one moment's slight error, and that was enough. But, of course, that's what he'd been pushing for lap after lap.
Yeah, there was a fight that lasted a couple of corners. When you go offline, you lose a grip on the tires. The track is not as clean as it's on the racing line, and then you just upset the rhythm as well. And then you just need to pick up the pace again. It might take few corners to clean the tires, to get back on the rhythm, and not to lose the train of other drivers and get the concentration back.
Well, that's going to be deep digging to find that, as Mark Musso just taking a look at the inside there. I think there might have even been just a tad of contact between the two drivers there, but Mark Musso then, discretion the better part of valor, dived out of that. Is he going to have another go going into this turn? Well, he runs wide outside. He'll try and switch back now and get to the inside, as Brad took a completely different line. And in fairness, Mark, you've really done that very, very well. And Brad just running a bit wide there, picking up a bit of dust, has also allowed the 77 car of Eric Pan through as well. So all of a sudden, Brad Falver has dropped from P4 to P8, Tony. And your train of misfortune, well, that was full steam for all those other drivers. Regrettably, not so for Brad Falver. Gregory Hopkins leading in Covershell ahead of Guido Venceslovas and Matthew Dalton. And Jason McCarthy now beginning to just feel the pressure of Logan Broughton behind him in the number 76 car for Ferrari of Lake Forest. So Lots going on in this 488 Challenge race here. We're live from Laguna, Seca in California for Ferrari Challenge North America. The mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers, and we're watching P2 and P3. And this particular place is being contested between Jason McCarthy and Logan Broughton. And Jason McCarthy in P2 at the moment for Wide World Ferrari in that number 11 car. Just breaking away a little bit, and sure enough, these drivers are catching some backmarking traffic now. So that's a consequence, of course, of it being a relatively short lap here at Laguna.
Yeah, a little bit of difference with the driving skills, also with the lap time. And also the gap between the leader and the cars in the second and third place is now settled a little bit under 8 seconds. Let's see the next few laps if it was caused by the lapped cars, because the distance wasn't increasing. Did Perina back off a little bit, having secured quite a safe margin? But last couple of laps, the gap has been just below 8 seconds.
Thank you, Tony Verlander, alongside me then for all our broadcasting. As once again then Logan Broughton just refocuses his attention in the Ferrari of Lake Forest number 76 car on that car of Jason McCarthy ahead of him. I remind you that Jason McCarthy doing a dual campaign, if you like, racing in both the 488 Challenge and also the new 296 Challenge series as well, and is certainly getting plenty of track time, that's for sure. But jumping from one car to another means your skill set changes, or has to change, to adapt to the different characteristics of these racing cars, but he's doing that very well. Progress board on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see that Guido Venclovas then in Shell has moved up some 4 places, and all the movements there. Very, very interesting to see. Mark Musso and Eric Pan also having moved up 2 places to run in P5 and P6 at the moment. Omar Balkasoon having Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale as the dealer representative, running in P8. But to give you a recap then, Massimo Perina leading by 8.5 seconds over Jason McCarthy and Logan Broughton. Those are the Pirelli drivers. Then for the Shell drivers, it's Gregory Hopkins from Guidos Venclovas and Matthew Dalton, the top 3 in the Shell category. So we watch here then the familiar 133 colours of Matthew Dalton then, who is running in P3. And just taking a look at the lap times between Venclovas and Matt Dalton. And just wonder if the Ferrari of Long Island driver is just beginning to narrow that gap a little bit. Very difficult to tell. We take a look at the timing screen and try and keep ourselves, as you can see, the best lap of 1:27.980. I just want you to compare that with the best lap of our race leader, Massimo Perina, which was 1:24.7. I mean, that's something of a margin. The 159 car then of Guidos Venclovas, the Continental Autosports driver, driving that 159 car and being pressured now a little bit more by Matthew Dalton right behind in the orange liveried 133 car. So Hopkins from Venclovas, then Dalton, then it is Pineda running in P4. Different lines taken in the approach to this turn then, as Perina then maintains his just over 7 second gap at the lead of this race, and we're into the final 12 minutes plus 1 lap of racing here in the Ferrari 488 Challenge race. And again, a very different line taken there by Matthew Dalton, trying to get underneath Tony by taking a wide line in.
Yeah, the track layout and coming into turn 2, that allows you to take different racing lines. The ideal is more or less from middle of the racetrack, diving quite tight into turn 2, then open the apex a little bit, and then come back again. But as the driver is really covering the braking zone,
yes,
you are tempted to go right hand side and sort of, like you said, dive inside later on. But it's relatively narrow track as well, so it's not easy. And every time you go off the racing line and trying to seek for something else, you need to be careful, because suddenly that grip disappears and then you go off the track as well.
This is Eric Hurd and Brad Evans then, who are contesting P6 in Shell. The 111 car driven by Brad Evans for Ferrari of San Antonio, who's took a very creditable P8 in the second race at COTA, and he is leading the car of Eric Hurd, and Eric Hurd then doing the chasing here. And we will see what Eric Hurd is able to do as we see a car stricken in the gravel there. And, well, no recovering from that car, I would suggest, because that is beached good and proper. So that 125 car isn't coming out of there in a hurry, I would have suggested, which means, of course, that for us, we potentially will see a full course yellow. We will see. We await information from race control, but I would suggest with that car stuck there, that's what we're going to get. And sure enough, we do. And here is our race leader, Massimo Perina, who was leading, and I say was leading, by some 7.7 seconds. And when you've built up such a margin, Tony, how distressing is this to you when, you get a situation where through no fault of your own, the race becomes nullified because of something else that has happened? I mean, that is misfortune, isn't it?
And now it's interesting to see how much Massimo Perina took out of his tires, because he was able to pull a 7-second gap really quickly,
yes.
And then it settled almost there. It went up to 8.5 and it came down to 7.2. So more or less that pace settled down. Was it something that he did on purpose, just to be aware if a safety car comes towards the end of the race? Interesting to see if McCarthy or Broughton, they have something against Perina now once we get restarted. Hopefully the marshals are able to assist the car that was stuck in the gravel really quickly, and we get back to racing.
Well, the recovery team have worked really well here at Laguna Seca from previous incidents. It's never been a long time that we've been behind the safety car. However, we are into the final third of the race, to be fair. Now, what is going to prevent Jason McCarthy getting on terms with Massimo Perina? Well, he has got a back-marking car between himself and the race leader. Now, whether that back-marking car is going to be allowed to unlap himself, I don't know. So that will be a tricky situation, and that, of course, is decided by race control. So it is Perina from McCarthy from Broughton. Then they are the top three in Pirelli. For the AM drivers, it's Gregory Hopkins ahead of Guido Van Slovis and Matt Dalton. And there you can see the number 22 car right now of Michael Porter, who at the moment is running in P4, and he will think that this is an opportunity for him perhaps to wrestle away the final podium place away from Logan Broughton. Who knows? He will have Mark Musso for company as well, though. So what do we got on the clock? 7 3/4 minutes plus a lap. So it's all down to how quickly the stricken car is recovered. And once that is recovered, we will go racing once again. So the 22 car of Michael Porter then for Ferrari of Seattle running P4. Great drone shot here that shows us the cars through the sweeping Laguna Seca track, where I mentioned earlier on in one of our broadcasts, Tony, I feel like this track, you're kind of on it for pretty much all of the lap. There's racing drivers don't, of course, relax, but there are some circuits with particularly long straights where you can at least take a breather. I just feel here, not having raced it, of course, but you have that, you're pretty much on it all the time for the entire lap.
Yeah, it is a physical track. Like you said, there's not a lot of time to breathe or relax, and also the precision you need here. Always hit your braking points, the right racing lines, and on the other hand, it gives you a great feeling when on those qualifying laps with the light fuel and new tires, when you get everything right. Before they resurfaced the track, the improvement on new tires was amazing. You could get up to 2-3 seconds of improvement compared to the tires that are end of the stint, or you use them a lot in the practice. So it's a track that varies a lot. You need to be careful with the racing line and also be really alert. Don't force the exit curbs too much. You need to use them, but don't drop the wheel. Like we said in the beginning of the day, that don't drop the wheel. In the occasions that we saw cars spinning or losing control were the ones that you were just too aggressive on the exit curbs. And when you see that dust flying in the air, normally something happens.
Yes, that's a very good point. So we're under the control of the safety car then at the moment in this full course yellow, allowing for the recovery of a stricken car. So the car's all lined up behind the safety car. You can see the recovery operation is going on track, and it will be cleared up pretty quickly, and then we will be able to go back to racing. But it will be one of my favorite expressions in that it will be a dash for cash. That's for sure. And there is also another saying in motor racing, and that is that safety cars often breed further safety cars because, of course, all the cars get bunched up together. Once again, the adrenaline starts to pump very high, and you want to move up the order. And sometimes, just sometimes, we see, another reasons for safety cars to come out. Let's hope that's not the case now. We've got 5 minutes left and 1 lap remaining. I was betwixt races down in the paddock earlier on this afternoon, and the atmosphere, I have to say, down in the paddock is absolutely fantastic. I was talking to the North American motorsport manager, Matt Dusenberry, and talking to Tony Davis, one of our Ferrari Challenge drivers, and the joy that the racing drivers take out of these fantastic weekends is really, really enjoyable to see. And Tony was very, very happy. And as I say, talking to Matt Dusenberry earlier on this afternoon. So all of the drivers, of course, once their race is completed, other drivers go out for their competitive race, and you find that all the drivers are lining the pit wall. They're watching everything that's going on track as well. You know, there's this spirit of competitive camaraderie between all the drivers and all the competitors, Tony.
Yeah, and I also love the fact how Ferrari is putting all together. We have cars and racing on track, but we have cars to the Ferrari history. We have models that you can have awesome track days, and then we have street cars. There was so much people on the paddock today that the whole atmosphere really impressed me, and these events, these Ferrari racing days are really special. They keep growing. And Ferrari keeps bringing new aspects, new things to see. We have here the new street car that was just presented. Actually, I think it was the first time that Ferrari presented a car model in US. So the 12 Cilindri, and you can see that car here as well. So there's a lot of action on track, but a lot of things to see also in the paddock, and just to discover the beautiful world of Ferrari.
Well said, Tony Verlander. The lights are out on the safety car. We're about to go racing then, and there's going to be just under 3 minutes remaining. I'm guessing we're going to get 2, maybe 3 racing laps in, depending on when Massimo Perina does cross that timing line, because the race duration is 30 minutes plus 1 lap. And is this going to be an opportunity for Jason McCarthy, who's still got backmarking cars ahead of him? 2 now.
Yeah, the group is not really together. I see Massimo Perina is really going slowly, but normally behind the safety car, the restart, these gaps that you see after the 5th car should not exist. Everybody should be all together. Maybe there was a car with an issue, so now we are ready for the restart.
Thank you, Tony. Here we go then. Massimo Perina had built up a huge margin. He accelerates away now, and, well, I have to say the pace that he has had, if he can replicate that over what is actually going to be one more racing lap. This is the final lap. Mark Musso thinks he's got a great opportunity to get past Michael Porter. Eric Pan coming down the outside as we go 4 abreast into this turn, Tony. Wow. All the drivers, and Mark Musso, I have to say, if he can make this stick, this will be a brilliant overtake. It could be up there for move of the day. We can see one car with damage there. We can see smoke coming off the tyre there where the panel is rubbing against the tyre. Jason McCarthy is continuing to try and get past the backmarking cars to allow himself to get closer to Massimo Perina, but Massimo has dived up the road, and of course Jason's got to be aware of the fact that Logan Broughton is right behind him as well.
Yeah, here the lap drivers are the ones that are causing a little bit of action here. They just need to keep the pace.
That was a big save, forgive me, Tony, when that dipped out onto the gravel with a little assist there.
Yeah, 3-4 side by side going into turn 6 is not good.
Good avoidance from most of the drivers. Frank Szczesniak finds himself head on to the rest of the traffic, but I think everyone has avoided him. And what were we saying about, sometimes this happens. Here comes Mark Musso then. Meantime, Massimo Perina is completely unaware of everything that's breaking out behind him because he's so far up the road. He can accept the checkered flag as it's unfurled and he's ready to wave as Massimo Perina then in the number 26 car makes it 3 out of 3 because he won both the races in Kota. He wins in race 1 here in Laguna Seca. Jason McCarthy seals P2, Logan Broughton P3, Mark Musso up to P4. Then it is Mike Porter. Now, through all of that, Richard Pineda got to the top step of the Shell race ahead of Matthew Dalton and Gregory Hopkins. Guido Venceslas losing out and dropping down the order. So everything happened on that final lap. My goodness me.
Yeah, going 3-4 cars side by side into these corners here in Laguna Seca is quite guaranteed for action. And I think without the checkered flag, we would have seen another safety car, another recovery situation to collect the cars. But going into turn 6, you could tell way ahead that something is going to happen, and was quite exciting start. But about the winner, Massimo Perina, I'm really impressed about this young driver. The performance in qualifying, on dry, on wet, the way he handles different situations, the actual race start, restarts in general, very, very impressed.
It's a mature drive from someone so young, which is, really encouraging to see, and why the the Ferrari Challenge is such a proving ground for young talent as well.
Yeah, exactly right. If with 488, but even more with the 296, that is closer to the GT3 car, our new 296 GT3. So if you are able to show your pace, your talent in these categories, it's a good starting point, good steps towards, for example, the world of GT, where Ferrari offers many opportunities as well. And what would be cooler to see one day, Perina racing Daytona, Sebring, Petit Le Mans in Atlanta, so these very legendary races as well.
Well done to Richard Pineda then, taking the Shell win for Ferrari of Washington. So the cars making their way back into the pit lane. That was always going to be drama with a safety car right at the end of the race. Here's confirmation of the result then. Massimo Perina taking the win ahead of Jason McCarthy and Logan Broughton. Then it was Mark Musso and Michael Porter. Now the best of the Shell drivers, Richard Pineda, Matthew Dalton and Gregory Hopkins, 1, 2, 3, but 6, 7, 8 overall. Brad Falver P9, Omar Balkasoon P10 as we get to the second page now, which reveals Gudas Venceslas P11, Joe Sposado P12. Then it was Enoch Hurd, Joel Rosenbach and Brad Evans, Lance Corley, Frank Sesniak, Eric Pan and Louis Peruskia running P19 ahead of Henry Hummel, Jeffrey Keel, Dan Magnusewski, Bernard Gomez, Steve Blevitt, Ben Godenzi, Stephen Chen, Bruce Cleveland and John McKenna was a driver that did not start the race. So the 488 classification in full for you. And there you can see Massimo Perina then about to jump out of the car, having done a very good job indeed. And as I say, a pretty mature drive from a driver that is quite clearly young and undoubtedly talented. And I would suggest, ripe for very good things in terms of GT racing. Of that, I have no doubt. He's congratulated by the team. And a big thanks to Tony Verlander then, as always, giving us his expert opinion alongside, and he's with us for pretty much all of the broadcasts during our 2024 season, and a delightful addition as well. So he'll be heading off now for further media duties, including the podium, where he will do his level best to avoid being coated in champagne. You've never seen Tony Verlander move so quickly. Thank you, Tony. So the cars all lined up there, as you can see, and Massimo Perina then, real young talent. He's with Shea Adam.
Massimo, the perfect season continues once again. How difficult was it to pull out that 7-second lead at the beginning of the race?
Initially, it was pretty difficult because the tires took a while to come into their desired temp. But after that, it was easy cruising until the safety car came out, and then we were able to manage from there on out.
What did you learn today that'll help you for tomorrow?
Traffic management, for sure. It was very tricky to find a place to pass all the slower cars, but I think we figured it out.
Good job today.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Massimo. Great job done. And there, congratulations being afforded, and rightly so, Let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship points then for 488 Pirelli. Massimo Perina leading on 111. Then it is Jason McCarthy on 96, then Logan Broughton, Mark Musso, Eric Pan, Frank Szczesniak, Omar Balkasoon and Gray Fowler running in P8 in the Pirelli Drivers' Championship. Ahead of Gregory Hopkins, Michael Porter, Brad Falver, Joe Sposado and Bruce Cleveland. So the Drivers' Championship for our Pirelli drivers within the 488 class. Once again, we can see the cars there assembled in front of the awesome Ferrari hospitality here in Laguna Seca. And, Pineda doing a very good job in the 152 car for Ferrari of Washington, who is with Shea right now.
Well, we just heard Regis say, I got so many of those passing moments in the braking zone. Richard Pineda, where did you make all those passes?
There were a lot of them. Coach said, be ready on the yellow, and we went for it. So thank you, Ferrari of Washington, De Lauri Rosa Corsa over here, and Ferrari Challenge. You guys make dreams come true. So awesome. Thank you, Shea.
What's it like to finally be a winner in this championship?
Oh, it's a wow. We've had many P2s, P3s, Imola, World Finals. To top it off here at Laguna Seca, which is a very different track, roll-on speed, and big boy suit on. And so it's very rewarding. Thank you so much.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What a very humble man, Richard Pineda. Oh, yes. Feel the emotion. That's what Ferrari Challenge is all about. Congratulated there by Stefano Guy. He's no stranger to race winning in his time as well. And this is the camaraderie that I was talking about between all the other drivers. It's just absolutely wonderful to see. Ferrari making dreams come true. There we have it. Let's take a look at the points then for our Shell drivers now. And it's Gerdas van Slovers who's leading by merely 1 point over Matthew Dalton. Then it is Richard Pineda now up to P3 in the points. Enoch Hurd is 4. Then it's Henry Hummel, Gary Ott, Brad Evans and Stephen Chen occupying the top 8 places in our Shell Drivers' Championship. Ahead of Joel Rosenbacher, Bernard Gomez, Louis Peruskia, Dan Magnazuski, Jeffrey Keel, Steve Blevitt, Anthony DiCarlo, P15 in the Drivers' Championship points at the moment. Ahead of Gerdas van Slovers, and then the rest of the order that you could see there momentarily. So with all the drivers assembling down there, of course, it remains from myself and Shea and Tony Verlander to say thank you so much for watching. We have another whole race day to come tomorrow. Goodbye for now.